morning. September is just about to give way to October. It's the very last day in the month of September. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikiolu, but I'm not alone.
Yeah, if you call it Independence Eve, you may just be right, but it's just another day for you to roll up your sleeves. If we must blossom, if we must bring in the sheaves, then we must put in the work. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
What a weekend it was. It was quite a long weekend on social media. The back and forth still on defamation or not, the EFCC, the Correctional Service, and all of that coming into play. So we wait to see what this week holds for Bob Risky's case, which a lot of people have been watching, which seems to have uncovered other issues, but it's important to stay with the real issues as well. The institutions that we have in the country, how well are they faring? How well are they doing the job which they're meant to do to ensure that at least the law is no respecter of persons? So we wait to see how that plays out this week. It looks like it's going to be an interesting week ahead, definitely. It's also built up to, well, the Rivers State election, the local government election. I know a lot of people are saying, Kyle, they talk about Independence Day. Don't worry, Independence Day is tomorrow. We'll get to that. But there's some drama playing out in Edo State. And this has been on for months, actually. The governor, Godwin Obaseki, his deputy, Philip Shaibu, been at loggerheads. It was said to have been over politics, the governorship election, whether or not Comrade Shaibu was going to run and all of that. Well, that it is meant to be water under the bridge, right, Bukola, because that election has happened. A winner has been declared. Mr. Shaibu did not vie for that election, and rather the APC's Monday Okwevolo won the election. But we understand, according to reports, that the office of the Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu, who, by the way, was reinstated. Remember, there was well, impeachment at the State Assembly, which a lot of people have also condemned that process. Some have said, well, it happened, and that is what it is. It's now law. But some have said, don't forget that this State Assembly also had its own fair share of history, with members not being, inaugurated and the rest. But anyway, he was impeached, and this case was taken to court, and the court reinstated Mr. Philip Shaibu. But it's been said that the police has taken over the office. Now the office he had to move to. Okay, there's a lot of drama that played out there in Edo State. So it's said that the police has taken over, and the workers there were asked to move to the John Oyegun Center to resume work because they are civil servants, right? So we wonder what this new drama, the storm, is all about. But yet again, today and this week would unfold it for us. Bukola.
Well, Kayode, you rightly observed that it was a very busy weekend just over the last few days, with a lot of back and forth, between the social media influencers. And the latest we have heard is the counter sue, between the influencer Bob Risky and the other one, the very dark man. And of course, a lot of responses also from the seeming whistleblower who has responded to the demand for an apology and a retraction of the things that he had said about the musician as well, false. But, the curious thing, Kade, is that after we just, concluded an election, a very important election that affects the lives of millions of Nigerians in a particular state of the Federation, the South, which was hugely contested by not just one of the political parties, but the, the underdog in that election, about the very many irregularities, about the contradiction between the results that they have and the results turned in by INEC. Nigerians have seemed to move on, and they're talking about, issues that are less important, that affect very few people. Perhaps it says a little or something that we should be watching out about our construct as Nigerians. Perhaps it's a coping mechanism, after very many years of abuse by leadership. Leadership, of course, is one of the topics that we'll be delving into today, but it's instructive, to know how seemingly trivial issues dominate the conversation. But some would say, no, the issues raised by, the influencer is not a trivial one because it bothers on corruption. And it was, noteworthy to also hear from the Minister of Interior that some of the officials suspended in the Correctional Service, only 2 had to do with the matter of the influencers, but that the others are from other parts of the country. If there's a shake-up in some of our institutions, to the extent that corruption is not being tolerated, indeed, it's something noteworthy. But we must pay attention to all of the other important details as well, as they affect us and continue to demand accountability. I wonder what the outcome of this back and forth between political godfather and, well, might we call him political godson now? I mean, the Edo State Deputy Governor, maybe not necessarily. But as Kade said, these issues go way back to when he wanted to contest election. And we've seen how he has defected. And, emotions run high in politics. But has the Edo State government appealed that court order that reinstated Philip Shaibu? Those are the issues, such that he's not being persecuted needlessly. And we heard him say recently that his benefits, since this matter began, have been withheld from him. If that's an injustice, then the courts should go after it, and we must ensure that justice is done. But we have quite a lot for you on the program today, Coyote.
Oh, yes, we do. By the way, one thing to also watch out for today, which is Monday, is that invitation by the joint committees of House of Reps to EFCC, Bob Risky, very dark black man,
yeah,
over the same issue. So we'll see how that plays out. Whether or not we'll have to need the House of Reps to resolve this when we have institutions that are meant to resolve it. But what do we have for you on the show this morning? Well, it's the eve of Nigeria's Independence Day celebration. Yes, Nigeria is 64 in a matter of hours. Well, that's 64 years after independence. And as the nation prepares for the speeches, the usual speeches that will happen, the commemorations, parade, and the rest, we review the journey so far with a focus on the need for proper leadership in the various sectors and cadres of society, be it business, politics, public service, military, and even personal life. Leadership, leadership, leadership. They say everything rises and falls on that. And that's where we start off this morning.
And one of the important things about leadership is, one matter that affects your life very critically, it's food production. Some would say when you cater to the matter of food, to the need for food, then you might as well have solved 90% of the challenge. So where are we in the area of food security? Recall just weeks ago, the billionaire businessman Bill Gates said Nigeria has the second highest food insecurity situation in the world. So how do we solve this challenge of food production? We have some farmers in the house today with whom we'll be deliberating on this particular matter. So food production is high on the agenda today.
Absolutely. So what is a breakfast show without food? What is a breakfast show without you? Hashtag CTV Morning Brief is how you can be a part of the show. Okay, so head over to X, whatever works for you. Let us know what you think about these issues. Nigeria is 64 tomorrow, 64 years after independence. What is your thoughts on leadership across the board? Okay, we can talk about leadership in government, leadership in private lives. As leaders, personally, how have we fared as a nation? And about food security. That is a big one. We'd like to hear from you. So in about 15 minutes, we'll be taking a look at your comments. So keep them coming in. But we'll go on a break now. When we return, we're back with the top stories that will shape the conversation today and in the coming days. So stay right here with us. It's a morning brief. Top stories at this hour is just less than 24 hours to Nigeria's 64th independence celebration, and the federal government has handed over 64 compressed natural gas buses to organized labor and the National Association of Nigerian Students. The presentation of the buses held within the premises of the banquet hall of the State House, Abuja. The government says 700 CNG buses are also being expected in the country, as the Tinubu administration says it is targeting to get over 200,000 vehicles and tricycles to run on compressed natural gas as a cheaper source of energy. And the newly elected national president of the National Association of University Students, Mr. Peter Josiah, is appealing to the federal government to come to the aid of Nigerian students by providing 3,000 compressed natural gas buses to all tertiary institutions in the country. Speaking at the association's maiden news conference in Abuja, He says the provision and distribution of the buses will help cushion the effect of removal of fuel subsidy on Nigerian students. The association is equally appealing to students to refrain from participating in any protest over economic hardship being experienced by Nigerians. And let's tell you that the federal government says it is not discussing debt forgiveness with China, noting that Beijing is willing to lend Nigeria more money and invest more in the economy of Nigeria. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, who was a guest on Sunday Politics, added that Nigeria has been making proposals for debt forgiveness at the United Nations General Assembly for some years now, but this hasn't been achieved. At the recent 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, President Bola Tinubu, who was represented by his vice, Kashim Shettima, had pushed for comprehensive debt relief measures to enable sustainable financing for development. And as residents of Sokoto State continue to grapple with the effect of flood which ravaged 22 out of 23 local government areas of the state, the government is appealing to the federal government to come to the aid of the state. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the State Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Mr. Sambo Bello Denchadi, says state requires the support of federal government and other Nigerians to cushion the effect of the flood, which destroyed several farmlands and rendered many residents homeless. And the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and SCDC, Zamfara State Command, has vowed to discipline and prosecute an officer of the command, AS2 Mekano Senki Tasha, who was arrested by the Nigeria police for allegedly supplying ammunition and drugs to bandits in Zamfara. Mekano Senki Tasha was arrested and paraded by the Nigerian police for allegedly supplying the ammunition and hard drugs to bandits around Mada district of Gusau local government area. The state commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Sani Mustafa, while addressing newsmen at the command headquarters in Gusau, Zamfara State, condemned the alleged behavior of the errant officer.
According to our preliminary investigation findings, the officer was arrested at the checkpoint between Dampa and Sabongida Avenue while he was in transit in his hometown, Mada, and they allegedly found some elements suspected to be cannabis and other hard drugs in his possession. Other items found on him were 3 ammo of G3 rifle and 1 ammo of anti-craft launcher. The Commandant General of the Corps, Dr. Ahmad Abubakar Audi, who received the news with disdain, has condemned the alleged barbaric behavior of the officer and directed that I take necessary administrative action, including immediate dismissal. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps is known for integrity in service to the body, hence discipline and compliance with ethical standard to be the two standard operating procedure.
And to politics, River State Governor Siminala Ifubara has dismissed the behavior of individuals seeking societal recognition as trivial and unworthy of prestige. In his words, he expressed that those who place undue emphasis on public acknowledgement have lost it, stressing that by the grace of God, he requires no such introduction. The governor made these statements during an interdenominational church Thanksgiving service as part of activities to commemorate Nigeria's 64th Independence Day celebration held at St. Paul's Cathedral of the Anglican Communion in Port Harcourt.
Anybody that is making noise for recognition is a sign that you have lost it. God has given us this opportunity. We must safeguard it. They are the one looking for a way to destroy it. They don't believe we will get to this point. That Babylonians that we are seeing today, we will not see it again. Look, God has a reason for allowing the devil or the evil one to stay long. It's not I can't take him away or take them away, but he gives them time to repent. And when they continue, it will come heavily, and they will say, it would have been better that I live when I had to. That will be our story in this state. So don't be scared of anything. We have gone past the most difficult state. That is the truth. Nobody can apologize for me. As a matter of fact, I belong to that school of thought that if I am the only person that needs to stand on that side of right, I will stand there. I don't need anybody to stand with me. I cannot give my kidney or my liver to anybody. I won't. If that is the only reason for me to be loyal, I will not be. But I will not do the wrong thing. I will stand on the side of right.
Meanwhile, a High Court in Port Harcourt, Rivers State capital, has ordered the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission to conduct the forthcoming local government elections in the state using the 2023 voters register. The court also mandated the Nigeria Police Force, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps to provide necessary protection during the election. The orders were given by Justice I. Igwe of the High Court, number 14, in a case instituted by the APP, that's Action People's Party, against the state electoral umpire, the Rivers State government, and the governor of the state. To health matters now, 3 more deaths have been confirmed following the outbreak of cholera disease that killed 10 persons in the Bokote village of Eza, Imagweni Z local government area of Ebonyi State a few days ago. Briefing newsmen over the weekend in Abakaliki, the state capital, the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Moses Akuma, said about 69 cases have also been confirmed across the state. Akuma, while giving an update on the outbreak, stated that other persons affected are responding to treatment at the different treatment centers activated within the communities affected in Ebonyi and Izi local government areas.
Presently, we have about 69 confirmed cases in Ebonyi State, and 13 deaths has been confirmed to be from cholera, this present outbreak. Most of the deaths occurred in a village, in the local government called Ndibokote in a Zanyimego community, and the nearby village also called Ndogbagobash. So, Ministry of Health, in collaboration with WHO, Council Chairman of Local Government, Ebonyi State Rapid Response Team, and other stakeholders were moved immediately to that community. And the outbreak, as we speak, has been curtailed. So there is no need for Ebonians to panic. We presently we've not had new case since yesterday. The ones we have now are the ones that are in the treatment center.
And outside the country, at least 30 people have died and scores more unaccounted for in just one county in North Carolina after Hurricane Helen tore across the state and caused catastrophic flooding. A clear image of the damage and the storm inflicted after barreling through Florida and Georgia emerged throughout Sunday, with Buncombe County appearing to be the hardest hit area. At least 105 people have died nationwide since the hurricane made landfall in Florida on Thursday, according to the BBC US partner CBS, and that figure is expected to rise as officials reach more areas. In sports news, the Nigerian Army has emerged as the overall winner of the Armed Forces Games, clinching 172 gold medals at the event held in Kaduna State. The Army also won 60 silver and 32 bronze medals in the competition. The Nigerian Air Force came second with 187 medals, 33 gold, 103 silver, and 51 gold medals, while the Nigerian Navy finished third by securing 18 gold, 43 silver, and 68 bronze medals, making a total of 129 medals.
There has been more to the Games than merely an athletics festival. They are a reminder that we as members of the armed forces are bound by a shared commitment of excellence, resilience, and teamwork, qualities that are vital on the battlefield as they are on the playing field. To our athletes, I commend you for your dedication, determination, and sportsmanship throughout the competition. You have displayed the same values that make our military strong: perseverance, discipline, and respect for one another. Each of you is a winner for the bravery and work you put into every event, regardless of whatever position you finished. These games have also reminded us that the physical and mental well-being of our soldiers is crucial in the face of ever-evolving security challenges. Ensuring that our men and women are in peak condition is not just a matter of pride, but a necessity for operational effectiveness.
Well, there you have it, your top stories at this hour. But what have you been saying about the trending issues? Bukola joins me now to walk through it. Bukola, what do you have for us?
Quite a lot, Kadi. Hello again. Nigerians have been saying quite a lot, especially about fuel subsidy, which is featuring prominently in the comment section this morning. Also, Nigerians are talking about the alternative to fuel subsidy, or the consequence of fuel subsidy, which is what the federal government is planning for tomorrow, the distribution of 2,000 tricycles to young Nigerians. But let's start on a light-hearted note, Kadi. This morning,
I think we need that.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo seemed to thrill audiences over the weekend at a wedding, and I guess it was also at the 70th birthday of one of Nigeria's faith patriarchs, where he, addressed audience and to their delight. But let's start with what he did, at a wedding.
And maybe look at it?
Yeah, look at it as well.
Right.
Okay,
So
should we
let's
look
take
at
a
it
look at
first
it.
before we take the comments? Maybe we should look at it first. Okay, we'll take that later on. But Bert Samuel is the first person speaking this morning, and he says, these old men are known for their strength. Even with age, Obasanjo is still strong and still has a good memory. Not very many old men. The former president stands out as far as this is concerned. When he mounted the podium over the weekend at the birthday celebration of the faith patriarch, Bishop Oyedepo, he did that with such agility, unknown to, elders his age. And we also saw him sometime last year, I think during the centenary celebration of his secondary school, that would be Baptist Boys High School. And, he walked down with all the others with such briskness, that you would just only, have no other choice but to admire, and wish he would be able to do some of these things that he does when you're his age.
Well, in case you're wondering how old is he, he's 87.
Yeah.
Right, so almost 90, and he's played football and done all of that. So that was a sight for a lot of people. It was cheery, it was good to see, something lighthearted just to maybe take away all of that stress and the tightness. But let's turn our attention to something that the Minister of Power said. And that's that 40% of Nigerians are enjoying 20 hours of electricity supply daily. So I know there's been a lot of debate back and forth. Are you part of the 40%? How much power are you enjoying on a daily basis? I mean, some of us can say maybe we're getting as much as that daily. I think there's been an improvement. But the danger of a one-sided story. It's important to speak your side of the story. But just before that, let us show you former President Olusegun Obasanjo busting that move. I think it's important for you to get a sense of what we're saying. There you go. Just in case you missed that, that is how it went.
Did you see him shaking it out?
That's really good to see, right? So that's just a side for you, really. How many of you can bust that kind of move? So let's move to
at 87.
At 87, right? Even at 40. But let's turn our attention to what the Minister of Power said. About 40% of Nigerians enjoying 20 hours electricity supply daily. And naturally, a lot of people have, been reacting to that one. So Abdul Rashid has the first comment on the Minister of Power's statement. And there you go. It says, I may agree with him that 40% of those who have access to electricity are enjoying 20 hours of supply daily. However, not up to 40% of Nigerian homes have access to electricity. Example is that my entire local government in Nasarawa State is not yet connected to the national grid. Abdul Rashid, would like you to follow up and let us know what local government you're in Nasarawa State, so this can be further amplified. And what exactly is, this is 2024, Bukola, to hear that a local government, not a small community, not a building, a local government is not connected to the national grid. We need to understand what is playing out there.
And you know, Kadi, Nasarawa State may not be the only state that has this particular challenge. And you were talking about the danger of a single story earlier on. Some Band B customers in a particular local government, I think in Lagos, last week protested about the
upgrade.
Yeah, the upgrade,
by
and
force.
asked the power companies to address it because they're having the challenge of power. And if you talk about something similar to Nasarawa State, the communities in the riverine area in Ondo State, in Bokoda, they haven't had power for a number of years. I don't know if that has changed yet. If you're in that area, you can write to us and let us amplify your story. But I know that for a long time, they were without power. You know, but let's continue with what Nigerians are saying this morning as far as that is concerned. Crypto enthusiasts said, to be candid, light, well, that's what we call it in this part of the world, power supply has really improved in my area. It may not be up to 20 hours, but it is close to it. Which area are you in? Maybe next time you're writing, you let us know.
Let us know.
So that we can also balance the story. This is a Nigerian that is saying that power has improved.
There you go. Sahid is next, saying that electricity supply has significantly improved in the last few months, no doubt, but saying 40% of Nigerians enjoy 20 hours of the daily electricity, this user says is exaggerated. Quotes NESG's H1 2024 Outlook report saying that only 60.5% of Nigerians have access to electricity. This says, where did the Honorable Minister get his figure? I don't know if your own figure refutes what he said, because yours quotes the people who have access to electricity. And that's more than 40% of Nigerians. So does that mean that 40% of the 60.5, you know what? But it's important to always put the figures in context. But that's what Sahid has to say about this one. And what is the source?
And so who has the responsibility to take an inventory of the improvement of power supply?
If not the Minister
all the
of Power.
power companies. You know, we have different power companies now. It may not necessarily be the Minister of Power. Does he have all of the data?
Well, he's the Minister of Power.
Those are the questions that we should ask. But it's being contested. That's the issue.
That's why I'm asking. I need to see data that directly contests this, not data that speaks to much general issue about the number of Nigerians who have access to electricity, and not the ones enjoying 40% or rather 20 hours of electricity. So it's just different data speaking to different things. I'd like to see one that speaks directly to what the minister says.
All right. So let's go to the next talking point now. Or do we have more time to exhaust this one?
I think Crypto Guru also says my local government is not among the 40%. Like a week now, no light.
So let us know the local government. That's the issue. As Kari said, we're looking for data that counters what the Honorable Minister has said. Mr. Pero said, I'm enjoying more than 20 hours in businesses, Band A, and 18 to 20 at home, Band B. Okay, so different perspectives this morning.
He even says businesses get 24 hours for days in a
row now.
So I think generality of people seem to agree. Now, there are instances of local governments that are not connected to the grid, areas that have not had light for over 1 week. So we need to deal with those ones so that they can also be captured. And final one on this is from Denzi. Yes, says 60% of Nigeria are people below poverty line. Nice for minister, no data to prove the 40%. So Nigerians are just asking for proof. What data did you rely on? And it's expected that the minister has the dashboard. You should be able to see what the discos have supplied over a few. I mean, that's what it is, right? So I imagine that the minister is speaking from a place of authority. But just to confirm, I'd like to see what the minister is seeing. Just to confirm, not that the minister is lying, just so that we can all confirm. Minister, I would like to see that data source.
Okay, so off to the next talking point now. And this time around, Nigerians are talking about something else. Fuel subsidy, and it was on the strength of our conversation with the former Speaker of the House of Representatives over the weekend, I believe, when he said that the current president did not remove subsidy. And that's the fact, really. Subsidy was off of the 2023 budget and was only paid up until June last year. And in fact, the group managing director of the NNPCL had also said in subsequent conversations with Channels Television that the NNPCL was taking care of subsidy payments that the federal government wasn't paying, and the shortfall under recovery was being shouldered by the NNPCL. So let's hear what you're saying this morning. Uche Chari says he is right. PIA, that's the legislation, automatically removed subsidy when it was passed. It provided payment till June 2023, even though Buhari-led administration stopped paying around February 2023. One may say is part of the debt NNPCL accumulated. What Tinubu did was to take the bold step. Now, let's not go speaking for the NNPCL, particularly if you're not the publicity manager of the NNPCL.
Right.
NNPCL has a lot of explaining to do as far as finances is concerned. So we demand more accountability. But we hear you, Uche Chari. Thank you for writing it.
And just in case you're wondering what exactly the former speakers say, we'll take a listen to it, and then we'll take more comments from you.
And then we must accept, whether we like it or not, except we're disingenuous, to say that the removal of subsidy itself, whether the president did say that subsidy was gone or that he was removing subsidy, we all know that subsidy had been removed before he was elected. And then we must accept, whether we like it or not, except we're...
It's really, that's the former speaker. They're speaking with Channels Television, really. The president has said that we had to remove subsidy and unify the FX. We had to remove the twin evils. I'm trying to remember the term that was used, such that we can get our economy in good stead. Yes, while I understand the semantics, the budgeting and all of that, but the truth is the president upheld that removal in court because he had a decision to make. He could have returned it. I mean, there are budgets that you can say, you know what, let us keep that. In fact, Bukola, it's been said that we're still paying subsidy. So
right? So
I'm not really sure.
It's a testy issue.
Yeah,
I was
really
going there.
What is this about? But this next user, Ibel Uchi, known as says, fuel subsidy was removed before handing power to Tinubu. Supplementary budget prepared by the past administration for the preceding year never captured fuel subsidy. Let us be truthful. So what's going on?
Well, Kenny is the next speaker this morning, and Kenny says, at official APC Nigeria, that said, should stop making excuses and take to constructive solution-based leadership. Fuel subsidy removal is a good thing. Lack of coordinated activities to bridge the gap is what caused the downturn. And that's the issue, really. Some would say, what was the plan for fuel subsidy removal? And here we are with inflation as a consequence of subsidy removal, food inflation hitting the rooftops, with some sectors, some stakeholders in the economy frowning on the figures released by the NBS, saying that it is a lot higher than what we're experiencing if you really go to the market. That food inflation is a lot higher than 40%. But anyway, Kenny goes on to say official BAT wants to take out subsidy and still maintain importation.
So I'm trying to properly quote the president on this matter of fuel subsidy and all. It said that I unified foreign exchange rate, removed fuel subsidy to save Nigeria from financial hemorrhage. So the president had said, I think it was in Lagos, visited Lagos at that time when he was saying that. So I'm not even sure what this is meant to achieve, really, because we're in that challenge. Let's find a way out of it. But take a look at what this user says. Abubakar Danladi says, then who? Who said subsidy is gone from today and increases the fuel pump prices with immediate effect? Who said dollar should change itself? Who? This user asks.
Well, as far as Danladi is concerned, it doesn't matter who removed it from the books. It's the person that made the announcement that is the culprit. Well, let's move on to other matters. We're still talking subsidy.
Oh, yes.
This time around, the subject matter concerns the governor of Ogun State, Governor Dapo Abiodun, who says the fuel subsidy removal has saved Nigeria 5.4 trillion naira. And of course, quite a number of reactions are trailing that as well, because subsidy is a testy matter in the country. Evaristus Ordinekaize, I hope I got your name correctly, says, saved 5.4 trillion naira. Where did this savings saved or transferred to? And if indeed this amount is saved in cash or deed, what's the net benefit when compared to avoidable human deaths and sufferings resulting from subsidy removal till date? Show us the numbers and the results. We can conclude for ourselves whether there's any savings or losses.
And that is, I think, just at the heart of the issue. When you say money has been saved, people want to see what it has gone to. Now, the government might say FAC allocations increased, but we just discussed that in spite of the FAC allocation increase, states are even deeper in debt. So it's really tough to align with that. Olanusi Akintayo has the next one saying the question is, what is the impact of the 5.4 trillion naira on the economy? Are Nigerians better off now than when the subsidy was removed? Big question mark there.
Big question mark there. And, you know, we could also ask questions of the Ogun State governor himself, because the subnationals have, you know, had increased allocation as a result of fuel subsidy savings by 50% or 40%, according to reports. So where are all those savings, particularly, you know, following the concern about dilapidated roads in Ogun State, those on the border, particularly with Lagos State? There was, you know, a flurry of reactions and concern about those roads, the state of those roads. So we demand that whatever the governor has collected from increased FAC allocation should be seen, should reflect on those roads, let them be fixed, such that, you know, commerce will become viable, and value of property in those areas will also increase, and then we can have an improved economy. So important questions to ask of the Ogun State governor, who is drawing our attention to this matter. Yinka Afe says, so if we've saved this much, instead of subsidizing education, why do we have to increase our college fees, unity schools and varsities? Where's this 5.7 trillion naira? Another important question.
Taiwo is next, saying, so we saved money we would have otherwise spent on fuel. Okay, but now that we've saved it, what will we do with it? So this is actually doesn't stop there. It says it's all going to magically disappear. That's what this user believes, since after all, our savings, it won't be declared in our revenue statement. So open the books, be transparent, be accountable. And Nigerians won't contest these things much because they have the facts in front of them, because you have put it out there. This is what the money was used for, and this is the evidence. Not just FAC allocation, let us see the evidence of the monies being used, particularly by the state government. So this is, it's very interesting. It's like you were going to point a finger, but then the rest was pointing back at you. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, FG to distribute, that's the next talking point, by the way. 2,000 CNG-powered tricycles to youths across Nigeria from October the 1st, 2024. So that's not like, you know, doing what you ought to have done at the beginning before the removal of fuel subsidy, doing it after the fact. It's like medicine after death.
This was promised over a year ago.
Over a year ago.
I should say.
And the buses have only begun to come in the last couple of months, from about August, the distribution of the CNG buses. Still, we haven't seen the impact on the economy. Important questions to ask there. So Reliable Reports is the first speaker this morning, and they say this initiative could boost youth employment and promote cleaner transport options in Nigeria.
So I think everybody is in support of the CNG alternative. I think the onboarding cost is the challenge for a lot of people. And for commercial vehicles who have onboarded, have they reduced the price or their own transportation pricing to customers? Do they even tell you that, oh, I'm doing CNG, so don't pay 100 naira? Pay 70 naira or 80 naira.
Well, to address that, the leader of the head of the presidential initiative was saying over the weekend that those tricycles will be tagged PCNI, Presidential Initiative for CNG or something like that, such that, you know, those tricycles will charge less of the usual price.
No, I'm saying there are vehicles, taxis, you know, those ones on the ride-hailing apps that have switched to CNG. So I'm saying that as that reflected in their pricing as well, because you're not spending as much on petrol. That's the question, man. It's for those ones. While the tricycles, we've not really seen that. I'm talking about the taxis, because I know a couple of them have switched, but you probably will not see that reflected in their pricing. The next user, Ajibari Talk, says, I hope there are plans for maintenance and support for these youths. It is important to ensure the initiative is sustainable and truly beneficial in the long run.
And Ebuzo says, it's CNG. That means cost of buying gas for this is far lower than the normal keke. Government should simply employ riders who will charge at FG stipulated rates so as to cushion the problem of high transportation costs in the country. And, this goes to what Kadi was saying, that there are some who have actually switched, but, the pricing is not reflecting on their service. So how, for those who have switched and switched on the aid of government, because government provided the intervention, for those vehicles some of the vehicles to switch. We can't confirm all of that. So how do they monitor to ensure that they charge lower rates?
And the elephant in the room is some people then asking, if this is the way to go now, what happens to the Port Harcourt refinery for the petrol bit of it, the Dangote refinery? Because that's been the major issue. Supply petrol. 60 million liters per day is what we consume. No, we consume 30 million liters or 40 million liters. So if this is the way to go, what happens to petrol in the next few years? Eventually, if everybody converts and says this is cheaper, what happens to our petrol?
Well, Dangote is a businessman. I'm sure he's thinking ahead. Maybe there's a component for the manufacture of CNG as well to also take care of domestic needs.
There should also be other derivatives. I'm just wondering, because there's been a lot of talk about it. There's been a lot of investment. The Port Harcourt refinery, there's the Kaduna refinery. All of them still tentative, right? But that's a big question. What does the future hold? In the meantime, keep your comments coming in. #CTV Morning Brief. We've walked through some of the major talking points right now, but there's still more to come right here on the Morning Brief in just a moment. Stay with us. It's a day before Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary commemoration. It's meant to be low-key, but we'll take a look at the issues to focus on. That's the moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. And, it's Independence Eve. No better time to reflect on our progress and challenges as a nation in the last 64 years. And some would say that Nigeria is the giant of Africa, that if Nigeria gets it right, the whole of Africa will get it right. So what is Nigeria doing, or what is Nigeria not doing that it is supposed to be doing? An important conversation to have, and a timely one at that. So joining us to have this conversation this morning is Mr. Linus Okore, who is a leadership consultant. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning.
And thank you for rising to the occasion, challenging as it is at this time of the day.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we start off, where leadership is concerned, that seems to be time and again the challenge that Nigeria has. What are we missing? What is Nigeria supposed to be doing that it is not doing currently?
So everything rises and falls on leadership. And so for many years, all what we did in this country is complain about the leadership deficits, and there was little investment in the leadership development of Nigerian citizens, over time, so that Nigerians, you have a critical mass of people that have the right leadership mindsets, the right leadership judgment, the right competencies, so that when they are thrown or they have opportunities to lead, they will be able to lead based on the qualities that they have imbibed over the years. So what that means is that if we do not invest in leadership development in primary, in secondary, in universities, and there's no special vehicle institution that is designed specifically to continuously develop leadership capital for this country, then what we'll see will be confusing leadership positions to leadership competencies. So in that context, we won't be able to make the type of progress that we're supposed to make. Because if I talk about leadership from the concept of the definition itself, according to Dr. Miles Monroe, he defines leadership as the ability to influence, motivate, drive a group of people towards a particular direction via inspiration, not intimidation or manipulation. And if you run down this definition across businesses, families, communities, basically, you want to see, what are those competencies that will help an individual to gain influence, right? is when the individual places humans very high in his metrics, right? In his sense of judgment. Human beings are important. Then I invest in human beings around me. So when I'm compassionate and I add value to human beings that are around me, I make sure that their lives are better. I make sure that, you know, they have capacity to become the best that they can ever be. I help them to become more, right? In the process of doing that, what happens is that people begin to respect me based on the way I've treated them, you know, over time. And so when people look at me and they see vision, they see direction, right? I show them the way to go. I show them direction. I show them faith in themselves. And there's a clear direction of where you're taking them to. So what happens is that people develop confidence over time. Then your activities around them have shown trust. They have shown commitment. Have shown, you know, so these are some of the things that help people develop. So that's why certain people who even don't even occupy public positions in the communities, people look towards them for leadership because of who they have become rather than what they have been doing in that context.
So those are ideals that Nigeria seemingly is not lacking in their leaders. You know, some would say that the late MK Abiola was the best president Nigeria never had. And some would also say that former premier of the Western region had a missed opportunity, you know, to lead Nigeria. He would have transformed Nigeria. Those were the things that we heard as we grew up. So if we begin to look at our electioneering process, the practicalities now, what are we missing that would ensure that that process produces the right kinds of leaders that would, you know, interpret the vision and would trickle down to every other subset in our national life?
So when you talk about electioneering, I want you to talk about the local government in, you know, elections. I want to talk about the gubernatorial elections, the state house of assembly elections, and national assembly elections. All of that, including the presidential elections, all of that constitutes a process. Now, the most important thing, no matter the document that is signed, that this is how the process should run, if you have human beings who drive those processes, who are in charge and have the responsibilities of making sure that the right things are done, if those human beings don't show leadership, right? If they don't take responsibility, if they don't do what is right, if they don't lead accordingly, guess what happens? We won't get the right type of leaders across board. Now, the people who are to make decisions themselves, who are to vote, you know, in this process of these elections, if they are controlled by stomach infrastructure, which is, you know, current thinking of their situation, right? So we are poor, therefore we'll make the wrong decisions, right? We'll collect money and vote for the wrong people. Those kinds of things. You need people. That's why I said you need an investment in the self-confidence of the people across this country, the Rural Leadership Development Program, where the young people at those community level can see themselves as leaders. So which means that despite of the hunger they face, that they have a one-time opportunity to transform their lives by ensuring that they delay gratification. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And ensure that they are voting right. And the middlemen, you know, who rock these people, who control these people literally, would have to begin to also think beyond themselves, right? That listen, if we get it right in enthroning leadership capital across the right set of leaders, leaders who are compassionate, leaders who are visionary, leaders who have competencies and capacity, who have the resources to make things happen. Now, these people literally will be bestowed upon the future of our country if these young people who are the grassroots, right, understand their responsibilities, you know, in that context. So I want to be able to see where you have a lot of people come out. There's no voters apathy, because if there's voters apathy in the first place, right, what happens is that there is room for manipulation, as the case may be, right? So imagine if people take this subject of voting seriously, that look, if it's my personal life, if I fail today, I won't say because I failed today, I will not rise, right? So we'll take it like nation building is a serious business, that everyone will continue to put in their best to say, you know what, I'm selfless in this process, and let's look at the criteria for leadership. So you have people who are sharing with the young people in the communities. Look at the criteria that you can see in a good leader, right? You know, this and that, and why it is important for them to make that kind of decision. Now, that is not happening. You know why that is not happening? The guys who are even good, the good guys, so-called good guys, right, are not even interested because they have given hope. They have lost hope. Yeah? And, leaders are dealers in hope. In a country that must make progress, everyone must take it personal.
And this is an irony because the current government says it's a government of renewed hope. But the context of this conversation is 64 years of independence or since independence, right? And it would seem that successive years or successive leaders have not been able to properly inspire hope in people, either by their actions or inactions. So when we say leadership or leaders in Nigeria, we're basically talking president, the state governors, and the local government chairman. That's what it is. And if we were to look at the FAC allocation, so maybe apportion responsibility, right? Federal government takes 52% of the allocation. So maybe we apportion 52% of the blame of leadership failure to federal government. State get, is it 26% or is it 24% or thereabouts of that? So they get that chunk, and then local governments get 20% of the allocation, right? I'm just using a crude, method to apportion responsibility, maybe not blame. But if you were to look at this leadership challenge in Nigeria and apportion responsibilities, who has dropped the ball and to what level, such that we're able to engage better and say, okay, local government, you take charge of 20% and do it well, or you have 20% responsibility. States, you have 26%. Federal, you have 52%. Is that the same way you see us fixing this leadership problem, or another way entirely?
So if you look at it from the resources that is available for a government system to operate, we might be limiting the conversation, because the leader is a mobilizer of resources, right? So the leader would have the capacity to look beyond, what oil money gives us, right? Who would look at the human beings that are in this country, that each person in Nigeria is not a liability. Each person has capacity to become much more and can produce a lot more, right? And the right type of investment. So we're looking at 7-star skills. So take for instance, the population of young people in this country right now. There are certain kind of investment I'm looking at. 7-star skills in, say, technical skills, for instance. I want to see 7-star institutions that can compete with any other institution in the world, right? Producing the very best of young people as they are. The right type of skills in technology, the right kind of skills in oil and gas, the right 7-star skill in agriculture, the right 7-star skill in every segment of life's endeavor. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Such a way that we can export human capital in terms of 7-star skills to the rest of the world. So we train for skills, we train for the business of the skills, we train for the leadership capital of the skills, we train for, so you have comprehensive human beings in Nigeria. All of these young people who are on the street, the best of them in music. I want to see institutions that will produce music stars, right? 7-star. I want to see those types of technical skills that are missing. We can supply them to the rest of the world.
I get the
if you
drift.
yes.
But my own question is, and we'll come to that point. You're talking human capital right now, not just the resources, oil money. But my question is basically, who is the most important leader in Nigeria?
Everyone is important, but the person who can drive this progress, the president of Nigeria has capacity. Do you get what I mean? Based on his responsibility to actually throw the vision. The vision, I mean, everybody should be aligning to the big vision of the president. But the truth of the matter is that every state government is independent. The state governor is independent. The state governor, is supposed to basically, see his own entity as a country and gives it the required vision that it needs to grow. The local government as it is now, which I think I would, appreciate the president of the country for taking leadership to ensure that the local government right now are independent, in that context. And I want to see that through, whereby the governors will not have, that type of control.
Well, even though
that by proxy, that continues to be. But I want to see that local government chairman who will emerge, despite of the fact that the governors gave them the opportunity to emerge and they maintain their independence in that context. The boldness to do that, that's leadership. So that at the end of the day, the resources that is sent to the local government areas, right, can deliver, you know, to the people. And not just those resources. There are also non-state actors, non-political actors who have resources in their hands, who are from those local government areas, that if they see vision, a lot of them are big business people in those local government, for instance. Some of them are based overseas. Some of them are in London. Can they profile their very best and find human beings that can help them grow that system? It requires a lot of leadership. That's why I said to you that, you know, no nation can make progress until people will sit down in a room, right, and begin to reinvent their leadership capacity and say, I know nothing. You know that I know nothing, because we will arrive too soon in this country where, you know, people stop learning, yeah, and they think they know it because they have been given political positions. Do you know what I'm talking about? So what I'm saying to you is that both the president of the country, the state governors and the local government chairman, and the National Assembly, the state national assemblies, the National Assembly in itself, Senate, the House of Representatives, leadership has been bestowed upon them to play the role that they have to play, including judiciary. So
do we have the best crop of, and this is leading somewhere.
Yes.
One, if that's the scale of importance, pardon me to use that term, do we, from what you've seen, do we have the very best in those positions?
So,
what percentage would you give it? And then, why have they not been, whether or not they are the best in that position, they are in that position. So what is the number one factor that they're not performing as they ought to? So first, the first question is that, even now I've almost forgotten my questions now. The first question is, oh goodness me, but I hope you caught that drift, right? So you can go ahead and respond.
So my thinking right now, if I begin to do the metrics, you know, to say, all I know is that right now there's a lot of deficit of leadership capital.
Oh yes, do we have the very best of the best there? What's the percentage?
Yes,
I froze for a moment.
I'm telling you at the moment, there's a lot of deficit of leadership capital across board, specifically.
So is it 50%?
You know,
10%?
basically, I can't give that figure at the moment, but the point I'm trying to, you know, let you know is that only very few, in terms of measuring it, because the only way you can measure that is results. Do you get what I mean? Leadership is not something you explain about. Leadership is result. The more leaders, you know, push forward and generate result, basically, then you can measure. So if I were to even advise Nigerians right now, I can say, you know what, let's give benefit of doubt right now and say there's a 4-year tenure, right, for each of these leaders. Right? The pressure that we are putting is that we want to see that they all begin to stretch like never before in order to be able to accomplish the vision that we're looking at. And if after 4 years we don't see results, what will be the responsibility of Nigerians? Nigerians will be able to go to the polls and say this is exactly, you know, what we want. And I'm sure in your heart you're thinking, oh, I'm talking ideal. You know, ideal, right? But the point on ground is that if everyone in Nigeria can rise up to their leadership responsibilities, right, and people focus on the goal and they make the right judgments, do you understand what I'm talking about? We'll be able to know we will not take this anymore or we can take this anymore. That's the point I'm trying to make. And so can we all, even at this point in time, have what we call leadership judgment and the leadership language? Do you know that a lot of us no longer believe in this country as a result of failed expectations? Is that correct? I say over the years, people have just been failing them, promising and not delivering. So people are tired. I don't blame them for being tired. And yet, it is a leader's responsibility to now say, I will, you know, do everything I can to make sure that the people see results. And when the people see the results, maybe their lost hope cannot begin to get reignited again as a result of that. But no amount of conversations, no amount of talk can actually, you know, deal with the issue of non-results. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, and if this country must work, there also be a time when we'll begin to ask all those who occupy public political leadership in this country at whatever levels that, look, they must now begin to think legacy. They must think legacy, that after they are off power, right? would they be remembered?
And I'd like you to speak to that, but let me put it in context by, pardon me, puncturing your initial optimism about, what this administration seems to be doing by ensuring now that funds will go directly to local government. Perhaps we can begin to see some leadership, results of leadership at the grassroots. Right after that, we've seen local government elections, being conducted fast-paced, campaigns here and there. But the ruling parties are sweeping victory at these polls, which speaks to what could happen in the short term. We haven't seen that yet, but the projection is that these subnationals, the executives, the state executives will yet again wield the needless control over local government funds, either directly or indirectly. So speaking of legacy now, how do we deal with that bandwagon of effect of people who genuinely assume leadership and want to serve, but when they get into those positions of authority, a certain realization dawns on them and everybody wants to make quick, selfish gains, while they are there. So how do we deal with that bandwagon effect?
So, at this point in time, really, my advice as a leadership coach will be, if somebody seeks to occupy political office, right, the person must, at any point in time, think in the context of legacy. What will be my legacy? And guess what? History never forgets, right? If the political leader goes to lead and he decides to think long term, forget second term. Second term is not his thinking. He's thinking, how can I help the people today to be the best that they can? Now, let me tell you the truth. If they deliver on that commitment, the people will never forget them. It's a life opportunity to be president, to be governor, to be local government chairman. And these things are tenured, right? Now, it is a question of legacy. You do your job well, serve the people, forget personal interests. You do the best that you can. History will put you in a context in the heart of the people.
What if I want to leave a legacy,
yes,
but I'm experiencing pressure from those who ensured that I got there in the first place, who are demanding certain things of me, and I must, dance to their tune if I must retain that position?
So everything falls, like I said, is on the back of the leader. The responsibility of decision, to make the right decision, the judgment, is on the table of the leader. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So the leader will make that choice to say, am I to satisfy the people who do not want the interests and the progress of the people? If I do that, I sabotage myself. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Because at the end of the day, my name will be in mud. That's the truth of the matter. So that's why we're saying that the leader has a responsibility to sack those that has to be sacked, if he must perform. Do you understand what I'm talking about? The responsibility is in the leader's table. So if you're a political leader and you want to leave a legacy, my advice, to be very honest with you, I hear what the people say on the streets. People are dissatisfied. You don't need to. People are not happy. Most people are not happy. So if you want to make things happen, think long term, think legacy. And once you are thinking legacy, then you would be able to find the right minds, the right capacities and competencies, the right human beings, whatever they are. Even some of them might not even belong to political parties. In the real sense of it, you will realize that you can find people who are passionate,
right,
about this country and who have the capacity and competencies to drive progress, both at all levels of government. That's what I'm saying.
So let me bring this home now, right? And I'll give you a real example of this. Now, it's one thing for the leader to want to do stuff. Now, I should say I'm not holding brief for a majority of the leaders, political leaders. A lot of them have dropped the ball severally. And now, this case, there was a group of people that came together for a community and said, you know what, let's put legacy on ground, okay? For this local government election, let's come together, do some sort of debate, right? Let us hear from the local government candidates. Let ideas contend rather than the usual thing. And all of a sudden, word started spreading. And people started saying, you know what, rather than organize this debate, how about we get the money together, share it, and use it to buy food because people are hungry? Real life. So there is the push for getting legacy, doing things the right way, you get, and ensuring the very best emerges. And the people who will vote who that thing is meant to work in favor of say, you know what? No, that's not what we want. What we want is food. And you have politicians saying that on a daily basis. You have people trooping into their homes and saying, I want to get married. Your wife just gave birth. And it's like, no, it's not my wife, it's your wife that gave birth. All of those issues come up. Again, I'm not holding brief, and this is no excuse for politicians dropping the ball or engaging in corruption, graft, and the rest. But this is a real situation. The people seem to sometimes want something different when the politicians are thinking, let's do legacy. Voting, for example, pardon me, recent elections, there was a lot of vote buying. And it was hard to see people saying, no, we don't want your money, okay? We are going to vote for who we want to vote for. People thought, you know what, since this is what we get, let us get it. If you're not giving me money, I'm not voting for you. So how do you
I'm glad the particular local government you're talking about, I have first-class knowledge about what transpired. And I know the private sector individual who initiated that drive, specifically. And he was pained that it didn't work. Do you understand what I'm talking about? But the point I'm making is this, right? What we have failed to do is that we have not provided the right investment to educate those young people in the communities. If we're able to educate them correctly on what their responsibilities are and what leadership capital is, we will be able to make the big difference in the kind of decisions that they make. So what has happened is that the type of deprivations those young people have faced over time had made them so dependent on their political class for their daily survival. So as a result of that, most of them can't take decisions on their own. So what needs to be liberated is their minds. You understand what I'm talking about? Mind liberation, mind transformation. And I tried it. When I ran for governor in Imo State, I tried it. I did a lot of investment in the minds of the young people. And I saw a lot of young people take the right decisions despite of the pressure. It is possible for young people. Our young people are not stupid. They are not fools. It's just that those who have capital, capacity, the businessmen and women around those communities, right, who have capacities, they should focus on the development of those young people. They should not allow those young people in the hands of just the political class.
The challenge now
I'm telling you.
The challenge is we're now using, we're not going the normal route. Now, education, all of that should be at the table of the politicians, right? Electoral education is at the table of the Electoral Commission and the politicians, the political parties. So basically what we're doing is we are telling them, don't worry, keep neglecting your job, we'll do it for you. You get what I'm saying? So that essentially encourages them to keep not doing their job.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people who have capacity, who are billionaires in communities, who are wealthy in communities. What do they give to these people? Food. Short-term things that cannot impact them. I have had opportunities where some great political leaders, they got young people from their local governments and they sent to our leadership center in Abuja for 2 days. Where the time we're done with these young people for 2 days, for the first time, I saw their eyes open up. I saw young people see themselves beyond what some politicians see them as. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So what we're talking about is not education in the context of just head work. We're talking about the right leadership education, the right mindset transformation programs that will show to young people who they are, the possibilities of what they could become if they can delay gratification and take the right decision. So we don't wait until election comes before we start educating them because they'll think it's political. We have to create systems like that. And I'm ready to work with any businessman or any top leader in the communities who want to spend resources in reinventing the minds of their young people. I tell you the truth, beyond that, those rich people can also set up 7-star institutions within their communities. So they are dealing with 2 things. The stomach infrastructure that's important by giving them the skills. The skills, private capital, can be invested in setting up local institutions that are 7-star that can help young people become tilers that are top-level tilers, whatever skill you want from the community level, that can help them even in the value chain of agriculture, help them gain certain skills that they can earn from. So when they begin to earn from their own skill, then that stomach infrastructure thing politicians normally come with, at the end of the day, they won't find it very important because they can feed from. So we need a double approach to it. Why you are presenting them, give them 7-star skill. I want that type to happen. People can come together, non-political actors can come together, 4 or 5 of them, 10 of them in a community, and say, let's do something specific.
Then make them the local government chairman. And since there's a local government chairman who's not performing, make the people who are doing the work the chairman. Make them the the ones in charge, political leaders, rather than having a figurehead.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So what we're talking about is that we can create wealth in our communities by virtue of our quality thinking.
Right.
So what I'm saying is possible. But when we now begin to throw everything, political class, what about if a man cannot give what he does not have?
And I guess it also speaks to the need for those who are equipped mentally as well, to take up the challenge, to be in political positions.
And those who are ready, those who have competencies, those who have capacity should not be afraid.
Are you ready for governor again?
Right now, my focus is building a 7-star leadership institution that will help shape the future of our great country. And that's where, if you ask me, investment for leadership development is important. The quality of the minds of the people. We can't let it down anymore.
And that's another, service that is in deficit. Well, it's a huge conversation, but we must anchor at this point. And thank you very much, Mr. Linus Okorie, founder, Guardian of Nations International, and leadership consultant. Thank you so much for coming through at this very critical time.
Thank you.
And up next, we will still be placing the leadership test on another sector, the leadership test, current leadership test, and of course, the test for individuals who are in that sector as well. What are the results we're seeing, and how can we experience increased results? Stay with us for that conversation. We'll be right back.
Well, the projections don't look too good for food production, food security in Nigeria. And it's mind-boggling, right? Because we have vast arable land, which is very important to food production. We have human capital. We have the people, right? Which is also important to agriculture. So what exactly is going on here? Why are we not able to produce food enough for us to eat, export, feed Africa, feed the world even? It doesn't make sense. So today, we're taking another approach to this conversation. We're talking how tech can help us to improve our food production and ensure food security. We'll be asking first if it is possible, so we know if this is something we should talk about or close shop and go home. So let me introduce a panel which we have for you today. Femi Adekoya is a Managing Director, Integrated Aerial Precision. He's right here with us in our Lagos studio, and is also a precision agricultural specialist. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Femi.
Thank you so much, Kaudi.
And joining us virtually is Mr. Babatunde Banjoko, who's the MD of Omotone Banjoko Farms, and Chifemi Oke, who's the Chairman of Farmers Association of Nigeria, Lagos chapter. Gentlemen, you're also welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you, Kaudi, for having me.
Well, I want us to start with the basic, right? Let us know if this is possible, if it's possible to turn the tide of food insecurity in Nigeria. So I want us to know if it's possible or not before we get into this conversation. So maybe we'll turn our prayer points and our energy to something else than this. And I'll start with you, Mr. Adekoya. Is it possible for us to turn the tide? I was having a conversation with a farmer who said, bro, things are really tough. I mean, there's the climate change issues, there's seedling issues, there's insecurity, funding, insurance, and all of that. So first, I want to know from you, is it possible to turn this tide and make Nigeria net exporter of food?
Yes, it is possible to turn the tide, and because we have the potential, but the potential will not turn into food. We need something to unlock the potential.
So yes, it is possible.
It's possible.
Okay, we'll still explore this, but let me go to Mr. Banjoko. And I'll ask you the same question. Is it possible for us to turn that tide?
Just do the needful. And the needful are basic things that we have the resources to do them as a nation financially. We have the human resources, and we also have the land. We have the water. So we have the expertise. So it's very possible. Just with commitment, we can turn things around in agriculture.
Okay, so two people in favor of it is possible. Let us check it with Mr. Oke. Is it possible to turn the tide? You are the chairman of All Farmers Association of Nigeria, Lagos chapter. And as I said, I was speaking with the farmer yesterday who said the projections don't look good. So is it possible, Mr. Oke? Okay, I understand we lost connection, but we'll be back with Mr. Oke. So let's get right into it. We've all agreed, at least 2 out of 3, that's majority. And if this was an election, you have won already. So we seem to agree that it is possible to turn that tide. So let's speak to how we can then turn the tide. You bring in technology into all of this such that we're more precise with farming. What we've been doing a lot is hit and miss, right? So you just try a crop in this area. We've not done, feasibility studies. We've not done soil testing and all of that. So you just farm and realize, maize is not working. Okay, let me try cassava. Cassava didn't work. And you've spent months doing hit and miss. So what is that thing we need to add to all of the work we're doing to ensure we turn the tide? Is that correct?
So the question is, what do we need to add?
Yeah.
We need to actually bring in precision, efficiency, so that we can be able to guarantee productivity. Just like you said, hit and miss, just like a guesswork. Let's try this. Maybe it's going to work. Can we do this? But agriculture in the 21st century has actually gone beyond that. We can actually cultivate, we can actually rear. Now, with the vast amount of information that we have or that we can gather through the enablement of technologies that can help us be able to gather this data that gives us informed decision, eliminating the guesswork, right? So in terms of before you plant, what's the weather saying? We have technology that can actually give us that information, right? Right on the palm of our hands, through our phones, through our smartphone, we can be able to understand the weather pattern, which is critical to planting, right? Starting from there, we can be able to use technologies, soil sensor, drone technology, multispectral cameras, to be able to analyze the soil, the plant, or perhaps from the history, from past history, what has done well, where on the farm. Even on the same piece of land, we do not have the same soil. We do not have the same organic matter and things that make our crops thrive equally. Now, this is where precision agriculture comes in. Apart from collecting the data, how do we manage the variability on the field? How do we manage the vagaries of the climate? This is what we need to add. We need to actually bring in the efficiency, precision, and we can only do that through technology. So technology is simple. It's not necessarily the high tech, but high tech is technology, right? But it's the understanding that things can be done better, things can be done more efficiently, and that's actually where technology comes in.
I believe Mr. Banjoko is back now. Maybe we should go
No, it was Mr. Oke that we were trying to get to.
Mr. Oke is back now. We can take this to Mr. Oke to speak to the same question. If we can, become abundant and feed Nigeria, Africa, and indeed the entire nation. And I'd also like you to speak to what Mr. Adekoya is saying about precision agriculture, how we can deploy technology, to address some of these challenges. I wonder if this is possible because of the other exigencies that we experience, particularly in parts of the country where food is being produced in abundance. I'm talking about insecurity. I'm talking about, disasters as a result of dams breaking and all of that. Can technology, project that these things will happen? And how can we also use technology to address them as well? Mr. Oke.
Well, firstly, my colleagues have said most of the things that is very, very necessary. It can be from insecurity, we can be secured if the needful is being done. We've experienced most of these things years back. And I will keep on saying it, the neglect has been so long when we decided not to focus on agriculture. And ever since we now take it we take the bull by the horn now, government is taking their own part And we farmers and the individuals and the people as well should take it that it is necessary for us to have food on the tables. And I can tell you vividly that the technology of which we are talking about is necessary if the government was able to do the needful. And what are they? What are they? Capacity training. Let most of the essential officers in the working for the government who are available to work closely with the farmers in their various farms. The plant quarantine, what is their job? Let every sector take necessary action of their ministry. And at the same time, farmers will surely work. Farmers that planted on 1 hectare of land, experiencing a lower bumper harvest, will not be encouraged to go there again. But if it's being tailored, if it's being cautioned or with the extension officers by the government to take the necessary steps, if it's been advised by the plant quarantine, oh, the climate change is going to come, don't plant this at this period, plant these produce, definitely we will have food abundantly. Then the excesses of what we even have is much. Nigeria has been blessed with all these produce. There is no state that I've traveled to that was not being blessed to have one commodity coming out from that state. Let us take cognizance of our Lagos state. We have been blessed with coconut. We are between the coastal areas. And look at what major developed countries are doing with coconut. But here, there are times we still put it, we still export it to our neighboring country when we have not gotten enough. So technology is very paramount, and this thing can come from the government. An average farmer in the farm doesn't know A to B if it's not been trained. We are there in the farm working. We don't know what is really happening, and we enjoy being in the atmosphere of the farm village. But if government could come to our aids into the agencies of that are very paramount to do the needful, to tell us this is the seed you have to use at this time, to tell us this is the technology of the improved instead of us using hoes and cutlasses. This new technology, and the small older farmers are the one taking most of the foods we are eating in Nigeria and the whole country, not big time farmers. So I will still say my own that governments of which we have today, they are doing a lot, but we still need to do more. The All Farmers Association of Nigeria is the umbrella body of all the farmers. And we have it in every state. We know ourselves just like any other professionals. We have our association, we are doing, but we are not getting more than enough. Our governors too have to be sensitized that this era, there shouldn't be not much wasteful. Bring these farmers along to your doorstep. Let them know, ask them their needs. What are their needs? What are the things they believe they can sustain? Then what are they producing in that state? How could we help? Some states have taken it. Niger State is doing very well.
All right.
For all we could see. And very many other states too.
All right. Mr. Banjoko, I'll come to you now. I'd like you to speak in the same breath, particularly about the possibilities of tech farming, precision farming that Mr. Adekoya has spoken about. How much of it are you seeing as a farmer from where you are, and how much still needs to be deployed?
I think, to be honest, I'll say we've not started seeing anything. We've not started seeing anything because most farms' operation are still being done manually. We are still doing what we are used to, what we inherited. Like Femi, my dear brother in the studio, can attest to how many farms have they been able to service here in Nigeria. And why would they not be able to service some of these farms? It's not cheap engaging precision agriculture. It's not cheap. So while we are saying, and then we've been told from research that precision can reduce even your costs and increase your output by about 30%, and then you are benefiting from improved output. But because of the cost implication, many cannot afford it at the moment. When you go to mechanization as well, many cannot afford it at the moment, even though it's going to increase your efficiency by about 25%, increase output, reduce your cost by 40%. But in a situation like Nigeria, we can't readily say increasing your output or reducing your cost by 40% because of the cost implication at the moment. So my thought is the knowledge is there for us as a nation. We have the expertise, but we've not been able to bring this knowledge into operation, and it's still setting us back as a nation. We have the knowledge, we have the experts, we have the land, but we have not harnessed them because of cost primarily. And because to use precision, for example, Femi will attest to the fact that it starts to start with the mechanization. It has to start with a well-cleared land. How many of our farms were cleared using bulldozers? How many of our farms were plowed using tractors? So if these basic things are not done, to engage precision agriculture is going to be very difficult. For about 4 years now, we've been talking about the Green Imperative project in Nigeria, and yet to get any report. We said we are bringing 10,000 tractors from Brazil, 50,000 implements, and then they will send those ones in. They'll start assembling in Nigeria. I have not seen anything in that light. I think about a week ago, we had that the mechanization agency got approval for $117 million to bring in equipment, about $28 billion for the clearing of those equipment, tractors, equipment, and vehicles. But we are not sure. We were told it will take between 60 to 360 days before that will be deployed. But is this going to just go to the agency, or is going to the farmers, or is going to some association so that we can track? So my point is the basic things that will encourage precision agriculture needs to be done. Now, do we have the data of farmers in Nigeria? Can we say we have this number of farmers in Nigeria? That's one. For precision again to also work, we talk about the impact of mobile phones and technology connectivity in rural communities. Because most of the, like Mr. Babafemi said, most of the food we still eat in Nigeria, 80% of it comes from smallholder farmers, from communities, interior villages, where most of them do not have access to connectivity. They still rely on what we call, what we call palasa phone in Nigeria, phones that are not internet enabled. Most of them cannot even be and then we are having these apps that can help precision. Right. We are having drones, we are having this. But the equipment, the connectivity to have some of these things have not been, the infrastructure are not in place. So my point is, where I stand as a farmer, I can say we've not even started at all.
Oh dear.
In precision, in terms of technology. We have not started. We have the knowledge, we've not started using it at all.
So it just leaves a very bad taste in the mouth, really. We have a Ministry of Agriculture, and you'd expect that the ministry will be at the vanguard of this. There's AI in agriculture already. It's not just tractors now. There's artificial intelligence in agriculture, and we've not started yet. And that's why we have you farmers on board, so you can give us the real picture of things. So let me come back to you, Mr. Dekoya. So clearly, we're still scratching the surface. We've not even started, in the words of our guest there. So tell us, now that we know where we are, we know where we ought to be. Now, the distance between that is what we're trying to solve now. What do we have to start doing now? And I imagine you've worked with farms, maybe big farms, right? And you can tell us, when you speak to these farmers in rural areas, whom Mr. Oke says they love the farming environment, that is what they want to do. They're not bothered about technology or anything. Sadly, the technology is bothered about them. What has been the major challenge for onboarding? Is it cost? Is it just the knowledge, the ignorance in that sense? Is it the policy environment? There's a government bit as well. So what are these challenges? So let's fix them and then connect precision farming to the farmers who need it.
I think you have actually answered the question because it's not here or there. It's a complex problem. Like it all compound everything together, from lack of awareness to lack of capacity, economic capacity, which is cost. Because, and I quickly want to address something. There is no cheap technology. There is no cheap technology.
So can the farmers afford it?
The question should be, does the cost benefit justify itself? Because it's not charity that we are doing in agriculture, right? We want food. Food is money, right? So these are the conversations we need to really have. We do not need to pay lip service or socials if it want to see it, but it's not just charity. We really need to put our money where our mouth is. So it's a complex, from government policies too. A lot of government policies, somersaults from this policy to this policy. Which one are we going to be doing?
Is the Ministry of Agriculture interested in precision farming, for example? Have you seen any semblance of interest that has... No, it's one thing to speak about it, but it's another thing to see the fruit of it.
Yes, I wouldn't say they don't have interest. Interest, desire is fine, but action is key.
Have you seen the action?
Okay, for example, that was last year. There was a call for what is called Fourth Industrial Revolution Technology Application in Agriculture, which is supposed to be a collaboration between the Ministry of Communication, Communication Innovation and Digital Economy and the Ministry of Agriculture. But we're still waiting for that to actually fully come into place. Because that is supposed to be use of the fourth industrial revolution technologies, such as UAVs, artificial intelligence, IoTs, all of these things. But it's not yet materialized. And the call has been done. So if you say the desire, I think that ticks that. But what about action? This is what we need to talk about.
But what about interventions by NASENI, the National Association for Science, Engineering, Technology in Nigeria, the interventions that they're providing to encourage innovation in engineering and agricultural technology? Is there anything that you're benefiting from that agency of government as well, or that agricultural, technologists are enjoying from that agency?
As for me, I can't answer. I can't say yes, but I believe that the ministry is working, and I would just say that they just need to actually do more to actually put more innovation, and of course, any technology, it's not yet an innovation when it is not yet fully adopted. So whatever innovation in development that they're sponsoring, that they are actually funding or pushing, it has to come to the end users, the farmers. Until the farmers begin to talk about it, that is when we know that this is actually happening, or talk about the effect or the impact on them, on their production, right? So I believe that they're actually doing their best, but they need to actually do more.
What would it cost? Because you say, agricultural technology is not cheap, and we must put our money where our mouth is. What is the cost for the average farmer to deploy the basic toolkits that will transform their investments in their agriculture? So what are the basics, and what would it cost an average farmer?
Okay, so the question, there is no one single technology that solves everything. No technology is a panacea or a silver bullet. But I can say that what Farmer A needs is different from what Farmer B needs. Farmer A may actually just need information that can actually be brought closer to him, maybe through just that smartphone.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Pardon me. So what we'll do is we'll put you side by side, Mr. Oke.
Okay.
Who's a farmer, before we come to Mr. Banjoko. So Mr. Oke, what are the challenges you face? Okay, and we'll get Mr. Adekoya to proffer technological solutions to it right here on the show, real time. So Mr. Oke, over to you now. What are those challenges you face as a farmer? And then we'll get Mr. Adekoya to speak to the solutions that tech can bring on board. Mr. Oke.
We believe we farmers have challenges, especially when our produce is out, when we harvest. Firstly, we have some losses. No proper storage facilities. We don't know the period of our harvest is the only period that people knows that we are on. Assuming this is the period of tomato, we produce excessively. But how many of the people are buying it to make tomato paste? How many of those? We are just hearing. We are in the farm, they are working, and we are now producing. In another time, we may not even get those produce as we have we were able to harvest the bumper as at that time. So the technology of which we are talking about, really, it could have helped. But the agencies involved, the biotechs are there, the research institutes are there. There are small technologies of which they can enhance.
Okay, Mr. Okay, you're already profiling solutions. Pardon me, you're already profiling solutions. I want Mr. Adekoya to speak to some of the recent emerging techs that can help. But I want Mr. Banjoko to also quickly speak about some of these challenges. Maybe two of them, aside the one Mr. Okay has mentioned. Let's go to Mr. Banjoko, then we'll get Mr. Adekoya to profile some of the tech solutions. Pardon me, Mr. Okay. So, Mr. Banjoko, over to you. Then we'll come and do this again one more time. Mr. Banjoko.
Okay, the challenge is right. Oh, I think the challenges will still be in the area of cost at times. While you want to embrace technology, it's not cheap. You can't afford it. So even though you desire it at times, you can't pay for it. So you have to go the manual method, the usual method. So maybe some of those challenges, that would be one of the challenges to me, it will be cost. The other challenge would be that some of the technologies like a drone cannot be used in a land that has been manually cleared, where you still have a lot of trees. The drones cannot fly, so meaning the land preparation is still a major challenge for us. The land that has not been well prepared cannot be, you can't embrace technology. Irrigation too, most of the farms are not irrigated yet, so we are still battling. But I think one issue we should also discuss in this area this morning, like Mr. Abate mentioned, biotechnology and improved crop variety, we still have, most of our farmers have not embraced it. There's still this apathy, indifference towards this improved variety. I think extension farmers need to close this gap. It's a major challenge. So we are giving you this seedling. I remember the last time I was on China Street talking about telomeres, and I remember a lot of people trying to swallow me and crush me for my response or comment on telomeres as if I own the research institute. So I think we still need to close the knowledge gap in some of our research materials and the farmers that are going to work with these materials.
So biotechnology is a conversation we'll have. We'll still bring in Chief Oke on that one. So you have quite a job of work to do now. They mentioned at least 6 challenges. Produce loss, so excess production, Chief Oke mentioned that. Low yield, the affordability of technology, which you talked about, but we need to find a way around this. There's also the fact that he said drones cannot be used for manually cleared areas where there's still trees. And you know the proximity issue, drones, once there's a tree, you can't fly anymore, it just gets stuck or comes down. There's the irrigation bit. And then we'll talk biotechnology. I think that's where we'll anchor. But these challenges, quick solutions then.
Okay, so first, the question, the challenge of produce loss. Produce loss can actually be on the field and also
market.
In the market. So on the field, we actually do what we actually call, due to pests and diseases. We heard of 2 types of polluter at one time for how do we manage that?
Right?
Tomato Ebola. So that's what we actually call crop protection. Crop protection in the right use of pesticide and all that, and also the right application, how to apply them. That is where drone technology comes in to actually help farmers to actually apply them with precision and with the speed that supersedes the action of the pests and diseases, so that we can curb them and nip them in the bud, right? And when you have actually harvested case of tomato rot, we actually need cold chain solutions and proper produce handling. That actually solves it. So I think that actually would actually solve the problem. And cold chain can actually be driven by a lot of things, particularly renewable energy, solar powered cold chain. You also mentioned another challenge about
so there's
irrigation,
and all of that. There's also the cost component. Is there a creative way to be able to afford this? We're winding down in about 2 minutes. I want them to land on the biotech matter. So let's quickly talk about
I think about affordability. Generally, the smallholder farmer is a smallholder farmer, not by choice. It's because it's economically deficient. Who wants to, if you're doing 1 hectare, you wish to actually do 10. That's the way every business person thinks. You want to scale, right? But affordability, the economic deficiency, how can government help? We all know the policies. How can this technology be subsidized? Because technologies, even in developed countries, are subsidized for farmers. They can pay for long years to actually get tractors. Or you give them, or you provide it as a service to them. We actually provide services, right? Not necessarily the farmer have to actually buy the technology all outrightly at a huge initial capital, but they can actually pay as they go, as they use the technology. But even with that, the government need to actually find a way, because they are the one who owns the fund, to subsidize, to help aid the farmer.
Yeah. So Ministry of Agriculture, we need to understand what is happening there. What are the interventions, and particularly towards technology? So Chief, okay, let's wind down on the biotech matter. Again, we have to talk about it. So what is the way forward? Has there been any decision amidst the farmers or amongst the farmers that this is the way to go? We are embracing it fully or not? We have less than 1 minute to close, Mr. Oke.
Yes, definitely farmers will surely embrace the new technology, provided governments work closely or bring in the research institute, the agencies involved. They bring it, and those people that were able to produce, to emanate, to bring those technology out, their names should be written on silver spoon so that they will be encouraged. Because if someone decides to have a new technology and his name was not mentioned, he will not be encouraged. So the research institute of which you have in Nigeria, I think about 16 or so, let them come together. What are they doing yearly or quarterly? What are the investment they were doing? Cocoa research is there. What are they doing with this cocoa, the new innovations? There's several of these institutes. They were just there. Let them come with the new technology of which we are talking about. We farmers, we were there. We are just producing. It is where they carry us to go. Where they ask what they ask us to do is what we do.
Okay.
All our own is to eat.
We have to anchor now, but very important points you have made. I'll allow Mr. Banjoko to have the final word on this one. 30 seconds, Mr. Banjoko. The way forward, maybe biotech and maybe another issue that you noticed.
I think what I would just say we should anchor on this morning, for our research institute, we have about 44 of them the last time I checked, but most of their researches are on their shelf in their institution. Most of them should start bringing out this research. And this research also should not just be done on one plot, 1 hectare on their site, and they expect me to do it on 200 hectares. They too should do the research, do it on large scale, and they should also sensitize the farmers and the public. I think we'll embrace more of our local research than the foreign research. And if that is done, our yield will increase to about 50 to 60%. And then the cost we are talking about, when farmers are encouraged with good output, good revenue, will do more. And the youth, please, Carly, and the young generations too, will be encouraged to come into this space, because we have an aging farmer generation that are phasing out already. This is contributing to our food shortage in the country.
Well, I should say that I'm a smallholder farmer in my life with these tiny flower pots that I have, or plant pots that I have, but it's important to make that point. Gentlemen, we have to thank you so much and wish you the very best. The Ministry of Agriculture, the institutes have a job of work to do, and we have to start. We have to thank you, Mr. Babatunde Banjoko.